love that. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Blades and Behavior. I am joined here by Mike Maresca, who is the manual therapist for the Carolina Hurricanes. And for the listener, we had already recorded this episode, but we're re-recording it because I had some formatting issues. But Mike, I was thinking that it's kind of ironic the timing in which we were recording, because we recorded during Olympic break, because I was thinking it would be, a calm time. You had break. And it was actually the reason why I wanted to record during that time is to highlight and hone on the very points that we are going to talk about today, which is support staff and of teams and their performance. And the irony is that I feel like now we're back in the season. The NHL season's up and running again. And I feel like it just hit the ground running. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, pretty much picked up right where it left off. And it's been a whirlwind of the last week, but I'm kind of getting back into it, getting my feet back under me.
Yeah, it's funny because I was also very excited for nighttime hockey to start up again. Like these 8 a.m. games during the Olympics were very difficult to get used to. So and also it doesn't really feel like hockey to me unless it's like nighttime hockey, sort of,
Yeah, right.
So I was really excited to get back going. But then even now at the time we're recording this, the trade deadline is here and just a lot of busyness, it feels like, happening. And so the irony is like, the very thing I wanted to talk to you about now is you're in the depths of it, of just having to perform at your best because the guys are all back playing. And yeah, so thank you for being here. I think it'd be helpful, as we did last time, for you to give the listener an idea of your job description and a bit about your background. And then also too, within that job description, how much of your time is spent with the team. I mean, right now, as we're recording this, you guys are on the road. So just to give the listener a bit of idea of why high performance is so important for somebody such as yourself, given your role.
Yeah, so I'm the manual therapist for the Canes. This is my 6th season. And basically, I handle all of the soft tissue stuff for the team. I'm the go-to guy for muscle injuries, soreness muscles, anything like that. Anything soft tissue wise, I'm the go-to guy for that. So that's mainly my focus. I do help. There are other activities or stuff that I help out with, like equipment and stuff like that. So. But mainly, I'm obviously focused on massage, so we're kind of in the middle of a road trip right now, and we're in Edmonton. Been on the road for since Sunday, I think.
And
it's kind of
goodness, yeah, we're on Thursday now, so yeah.
So it's been a while. Looking forward to Sunday. I'm getting back home, see the family and the kids. So
yeah. But you're with the team all the time. You're there you were telling me last time about how you categorize your days of non-game days, game days, and treatment days. Is that what it was?
Yep. Practice, game, and treatment. That's basically it. Yeah. So I'm with the team probably, it's hard to put a number on it, hours wise, but I would probably say anywhere between 80 and 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. That's not including travel. Obviously travel, it's a little longer, but
at this level of hockey, all of the athletes are high performers, and that requires of them to have the highest of performers around them, supporting them, including, the medical team, the support staff, front office staff, and all of that. So from your perspective, what does mental performance look like for somebody such as yourself, whose job isn't on the ice directly, but it still directly impacts outcomes on the ice?
Yeah, so it's very important for us to have good mental health and good habits as far as that go. It's very easy to kind of let the days get away from you. It's very easy to kind of get overwhelmed with certain things if too many things are being thrown at you at one time or anything like that. So it's very important to have good techniques and good thought, good thought process as far as keeping your mind fresh, keeping your mind right, and being able to just perform the way we need to perform.
Having your own ways of going about also mentally being ready and being prepared, and also having ways to go about recovering from mistakes or maybe performance that isn't 100%. I mean, last time I checked in the history of humanity, there's not one person who's never made a mistake, right?
Right.
So if anybody knows of otherwise, they can let us know. But mistakes are part of life, and we hear it often about hockey being a game of mistakes. And so something that I work on with athletes directly in session is ways to overcome mistakes on the ice, especially because from shift to shift they're moving so quickly. And so I wonder, in environments where mistakes are magnified, what helps you stay psychologically flexible rather than reactive, because your job requires of you to always be on, but also to be able to move quickly with the game and with the guys when they're on and off the ice.
Yeah, I think just for me personally, I like to just keep in mind that no one's perfect. I am gonna make a mistake, and it's not the end of the world. These guys are, yeah, they are dialed in. They are very serious about their routines and how they take care of their bodies and things like that. But if you communicate with them and talk to them and say, hey, um, maybe next time around you get on the table, we'll do this, and this, and maybe not kind of tell them that I messed up or wanted or forgot to do something that I wanted to do or something like that, but like make it just be like, hey, I want you to come back in and see me, tomorrow or whatever, and this is what I want to do next time, and then kind of go back to the drawing board, look at textbooks or whatever I need to do to kind of refresh myself and figure out what I wanted to do differently or
Mm-hmm.
add on to a session,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of just go from there. And you're not gonna. I also kind of keep in mind that I'm not gonna please everybody all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody's not gonna like something that I do at some point. That's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just human nature, right? Like it is what it is. But you just gotta kind of turn the page, kind of not kind of dwell over it, and kind of just move on and just like I guess in a way like don't cry over spilled milk kind of thing. Like it happened. You learn from it, take it as a learning experience, and just move on.
Yeah. I was thinking when you had mentioned about, sometimes I'll think about something on the table I could have done a different way or a mistake I made. I don't think it's necessarily that something is a mistake. I think it's just the, and I wonder if you would agree with this, is it's more so the recalling of information or a way to go about something after the fact.
Right.
And I don't know if I wouldn't categorize that as a mistake, as a more so it's about applying and the application of the strategies and at a later time. Because I always think about that too. Sometimes I'll be thinking after a session with a client, like, oh man, I should have mentioned this, or dang, I completely skipped over this whole thing I could have told him, this strategy, this information that would have worked. I'm watching it like mid game. I'm like, oh, why didn't I tell him? And
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily that it's a mistake to forget to do that. It's that the brain can only process so much at one time. And the amount of information that we store as opposed to the amount of information that we regurgitate and that we can implement is the ratio isn't exactly even. And I also think that in certain situations, we have time to think about things differently. Like when I imagine when you're outside of working with a guy on the table, you could be thinking about, or maybe a thought comes up about, well, this would have worked. I will maybe try this next time or think about this next time. And that's kind of what you just said. But um, yeah, because we talk a lot about mistakes. Mistakes and pressure are probably the two categories and two topics that get brought up the most. And what I tell athletes is, I'll tell a hockey player, give me all of the possible things that could happen on the ice that you would call a mistake, right? Like what would get you benched and scratched? And it's like turnovers, not winning puck battles. And if you gave me a whole list of all of the things in hockey that a coach or any player would consider a mistake, if you took them all away, we wouldn't have hockey anymore,
Right.
right? And so a strategy that I give athletes is not to label it as a mistake, but to label it as part of the game. Now, ideally, you don't want that part of the game to happen often. The goal is to decrease the frequency, but it's going to happen. And then it's about like, how do you emotionally recover quicker from that?
Right.
And, as they say, hockey is a game of mistakes.
That's exactly what they say.
It is. I didn't understand it at first, and I was like, and then I just saw how many times like turnovers happen. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is absolutely a game of mistake. I don't know if there's any other sport that's like that, where it's just made up of a bunch of mistakes.
No, it's such a it's such a reactive sport in a way. Like, yeah, you have to know your spots and your system and whatnot, but the
Yeah.
puck's gonna bounce the way it's gonna bounce. Like, it doesn't bounce the same every single time, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's so unpredictable sometimes.
It is. But interestingly enough, like different from golf, which is very fickle. It's unpredictable. It's predictable, but also unpredictable at the same time, which makes it even that more exciting and I think rewarding when things go well. You
Yeah.
know. I wonder, do you think about yourself as a high performer? I always wonder if people who are surrounding athletes that we generally consider high performers, I always wonder if they also too think of themselves that way. Like I never did until I realized like if I'm going to be working with high performers and I'm going to be the one supporting them, then I have to be a high performer myself, whatever that looks like in terms of the behaviors that I engage in to perform at your highest level.
Yeah.
Is that a do you ever think of yourself in that way? I mean, I'm not thinking, not that you're sitting around being like, yeah, I'm a high performer, but do you categorize yourself in that group of individuals?
Like, I kind of, to your point, I think just personality wise for me, I've always been like a pretty humble guy, pretty laid back guy.
Hmm.
So I've always just kind of taken the approach like I'm just gonna go in and do my job, and that's the way. And if they like it, they like it. If not, then if not. But I think as I've gotten a little bit older and kind of had more experience and more time in the league,
Hmm.
I think you kind of have to, in a way, have some of that, like, I don't want to necessarily call it like arrogance or whatnot, but maybe like a little bit of like
Swagger.
just swagger, yeah, in a way, in a different way than obviously a player or something like that. But yeah, you I don't know if even would be the right word. I would maybe say confident in your abilities, right,
Hmm.
or my abilities. I think you always got to like keep in mind that there's 32 of these jobs in the entire world, and I have one of them. So I I, I have to be. I would assume I'm good at what I do, or at least I think I am. So
Yeah, clearly you are. It's a good reframe of how you're putting that. Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of look at it that way. Like I said, I've always been a humble guy. I always try to just I'm a behind the scenes guy. I don't like to be in the forefront of things. And I think I always try to just keep that humbleness in the back of my mind,
Hmm.
because it helps me learn and helps me gain experience. But also, I think that confidence, it pours into the room too. So like the guys can feel it. Like when
Hmm.
you're confident in your abilities and your hands on the table, the guys are more likely to come back to you and keep going and doing their and things like that. So um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think if you're not confident in your abilities and at least think you're doing a good job, then other people, the guys can sense that, and then think other things that might not come to you as often or things like
Mhm.
that. So
I agree. I was talking to a goalie about this a couple of days ago, and he's in particular so humble and has a difficult time sometimes, like advocating for himself or just doesn't he's so good to his goalie partner, like there's great camaraderie there, right? But to your point about being humble, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think you can be humble, but to your point, also have self-trust and trust in yourself. And I think that maybe what we're talking about, like if we had to put a word on it, like, yeah, maybe not, I think it's a like swagger, but like what is swagger? I think swagger is trusting your talent, right?
yeah,
And to your point, it's a great reframe of, there's only 32 jobs and you have one of them. That's puts it into perspective. But also trusting your talent is so important because they're not going to come to you as often. Or who wants to be on a table with a guy who doesn't feel confident in his ability?
right,
One time they brought somebody to me, a client to me, and I said, I can help him. I was like, I know I can help him. There's no promises of what I can do specifically, but I know I'm trust in myself and I would bet on myself that I can help this player.
yeah,
And they were like, well, how can you be so sure? I'm like, well, I wouldn't be doing this then. Because when you're working with high performers, you do have to have a sense of, I know what I'm capable of. And I think that applies to the guys as well. Is like they know what they're capable of, and I think maybe if we're hard on ourselves, I don't know if you're hard on yourself. I am sometimes, not to a great extent, but I think that's where being hard on oneself maybe comes from, is knowing what you're capable of, and then it didn't come out in time when maybe you wanted it to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it can be true that you can categorize yourself as a high performer and also be humble. That's
Yeah. 100%.
um, how do you think about, emotional regulation, not just for athletes, but for the professionals who support them? Because emotions are a part of any sport. It's such an emotional endeavor, but also on the flip side of the things that we're talking about, like you have guys coming to you that are maybe highly emotional after a game or from an injury or whatever the case might be. And then also to your own emotions. So how do you think about emotional regulation?
Yeah, I think for me personally, well, for anybody, I guess, I think it's just knowing yourself and knowing kind of like what works for you as far as, if you get angry over a situation, maybe, removing yourself from the situation for a bit, leaving the room or whatever, just certain things like that. Like, for me personally, it's just like creating some space for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Some days I just need to just decompress and just not really have any like human interaction, if you will. I just kind of just veg out, watch
Hmm.
movies, go to the gym, kind of just do my own thing, and
Yeah.
kind of just reset myself that way. But yeah, so I think it's just knowing what works for you really is because everybody handles emotions differently and and stuff like that. So I think just knowing, like I said, knowing what works for you is really important.
Yeah. Which
And it
leads to
takes a
self
while.
awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it takes a while to figure that out too. It's not, you know, sometimes you get in an argument with a coworker or something like that, and then you look back on it and you say, I probably should have handled this differently, right?
Mhm.
Like again, you take that experience and you learn from it, and then maybe you apply it in a different way the next time, and maybe it works out better for you, maybe it works out worse, but again, you learn kind of along the
Mhm.
way what works and what doesn't. And then I think for the players, I think the most important thing is just being able to just read the room. Um,
Mhm.
it's not like sometimes, and knowing your players like too. So sometimes a guy comes in after a blowout loss, right, and he just wants to sit there in silence. He's just sitting there with you, hanging out, but he doesn't want, like, you kind of just let him do his thing, play it like whatever, and then when they come to you, kind of thing. They usually take you know a few minutes just to kind of decompress, and then they're like, all right, like let's do some work or something like that. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's just kind of letting them do their thing and then letting them come to me is probably the way I would like to describe like how I try to let them handle their emotions. I don't try to, you know, input my 2 cents or this could have went this way if you did like what. No, it's just let them hang out, do their thing, and when they're ready to come to me, they come to me. So
Yeah, that's also something I didn't think about until just now as you're saying it, is that like you have to regulate your own emotions, and then also too you're surrounded by a team of athletes who also are emotional, and maybe for the better, for the worse. And I think emotions are somewhat energetic, right? And so it's almost like feeling like you're walking on eggshells if it's after a bad loss, and not wanting to make things worse and just wanting to help, but then also needing to do your job. So I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, is like the regulation of emotions, and also just emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. And it speaks to, what you just said about it takes time. I mean, you've been with them for 6 seasons now, and you had been working before then. And so I think these things just take time, and
yeah,
you refine your skills and your self-awareness as you go. And you don't know till you know, How do you in 6 seasons, and how has this evolved over time, but your idea of mental readiness, because it's such a high pressure environment in the NHL. I wonder how you define and go about being mentally prepared and mental readiness, and how has that changed, like from when you first started versus now with the Canes?
I think for me, I'm a very big routine guy. So
Mhm.
for me, trying to find a routine that works throughout the day, to try to ease those extra stressors. Um, I kind of know I know what's coming. I know what I'm doing at this time at certain times. And so I think for me, it's just trying to nail down a good routine. That's changed over the last 6 years. Every single year, I've moved a couple times. I've had
Kids.
two kids. Yeah, so um, you know, naps, bedtimes, feeding times, all that stuff constantly changes. So I think,
It's going to keep changing, Mike.
yeah. So I think having a good routine works, but also understanding that that routine is going to change at some, every year. Like every year, my routine has changed at least a little bit. So I think being fluid
Mhm.
with that kind of helps. So yeah, I would say for me, just trying to get in a good routine that works um, at home, at the rink, pretty much like that. So
Yeah. Do you try to use preseason to kind of work out the kinks in your routine? Like, if you're like, this is working, this isn't working? Because I would imagine, like, once season starts, it hits the ground running.
actually, I would probably say it's probably switched. I would say
Mm.
training camp is it's a complete grind.
Yeah, it
I
is.
would
Yeah.
say I would say it's hard to get in a routine because like you're up there's two ice sessions, two gym sessions, treatments for basically two
Two
teams,
different
two
teams.
different
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like those days are so much longer. So I mean, I'm at the rink at 6:30 in the morning till whatever 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's at that point it's just like, all right, I got a couple hours just to hang out with the family, and then it's bedtime because I got to be up at 4:30 in the morning again the next day. So like, I think for me, my routine, I can't really. It's hard to like kind of start nailing down a routine until the season actually starts, and we can kind of get
Uh,
into that like, it's just our group, one night, one practice a day kind of thing, and kind of get into more of the like the how the rest of the season is going to look kind of thing, the day to day stuff. So I would say I would say just to get through preseason, it's just trying to keep your head above water and just take it one day at a time, and then
mhm.
it kind of just in a way slows down once the season starts because you kind of know what's coming.
Mm.
Like everything's so detailed schedule wise and things like that, so it's a little bit easier just to kind of nail down your routine.
Is there anything that you think that people maybe don't know, should know, or just it doesn't maybe get talked about enough? That was, the whole reason why I initially reached out to you is I thought it'd be wonderful to have you on to come talk about it because it doesn't get talked about enough. And there is some research and some scientific literature discussing the performance of professional athletes and how it coincides and corresponds to the performance of the people who support them. So is there anything that comes to mind that you think gets overlooked or would be something that somebody would be surprised to know?
Yeah, I think it's just like I think for me it's just the time and energy it takes to do this job. It's um, not your typical 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Um, I would say it's a 7 day a week job. Um, Maybe 1 or 2 days here and there we might be able to sneak out a day off.
Mhm.
But it's the time and commitment that goes into this job for sure. Like I said, 80 hours a week, probably average. That's not including travel or anything like that. So it's a lot of time away from the family and the kids, a lot of, missed holidays, birthdays, school events, whatever, what have you. So the, I think for me personally, that's probably the hardest and toughest part of this job. And I think not many people outside of my circle
Mhm.
truly understand that
Mhm.
until I tell them really what goes into it, because every
Mhm.
time it's so like I oh how like when do you get a day off, or when do you have off, or
You're like
when do this.
you're
I'm
like
like,
in June.
I don't get maybe a day here, a day there, but
Yeah.
it's an everyday kind of job. There's no days off during the season. So and
But
I
I
get
imagine regardless of that, you wouldn't wanna be doing anything else though, huh? It's still
no
so rewarding.
it's such a unique, cool, fun job. um all the other, the pros that go along with this job far outweigh all the cons. To me personally, I think it's just I've never been a desk, like a behind the desk kind of guy. So I like hands on. I like travel. I like to move around,
Mhm.
see different places. So it's for me, it's doesn't get much better than this. So
Yeah, and I know I have a bias, and maybe you do too, but I personally think that hockey players are some of the greatest people. They're
right,
just really great people, and that's not to say maybe other leagues, they're not as well. It's just something about hockey players are just maybe a bit more humble, or just have something about them where they're just really good guys.
right,
And I
yeah,
think feel like that for you as somebody who interacts with them, on a day to day, I feel like that would also make it is the grind is the grind, but there are things that can make the grind a little bit more less taxing in some ways. All right, well, we'll wrap up with one more question. Actually, I think we just answered it, but maybe you want to expand on anything else of just the most rewarding part of your job, and maybe something out of the 6 seasons being with the Canes and in the NHL now. What maybe a main lesson or something that you're like, wow, I didn't see this coming, but this is something, a big takeaway that I've noticed over the years being where you are now, and what makes it so rewarding.
yeah. It's just um, being able to kind of just provide for my family the way I wanted to provide. It's a good job, really good benefits, things like that. So like being able to provide a stable environment for my family is huge. And just I grew up a sports fan my whole life. So hanging out with these guys on a daily basis is, it's cool just in its own right, right? Like
Mhm.
I always try to I always try to keep that in the back of my mind when I'm working, is try not to lose that, like I don't know, the fact that I get to work with pro athletes every day, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a cool job, and it's you learn a lot. You meet a lot of really nice people, really good people along the way, and the relationships that I've made along the way. It's just I wouldn't take it back for anything.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll wrap it up and let you go because it is one of your off days. Speaking of not many off days, this is
Yep.
one of them. So thank you so much for joining, Mike. And
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely, thank you.